Scott Parkin. I'm a peace, social justice, environmental activist. I was held as a political prisoner for 5 days in Australia.
An American peace activist has been deported from Australia after he was accused of being a threat to national security. On Saturday, Scott Parkin was detained by 6 federal police and immigration officials as he sat at a cafe in Melbourne where he was teaching workshops on peaceful protest. He's best known for organizing protests around the military contractor Halliburton in this country and in Australia. Parkin issued a statement saying, quote, "To this date, the only information I've received is that I've been assessed as a direct or indirect risk to Australian national security."
Shaka, shaka. Shaka, shaka. You got to get up.
This morning I spoke with Scott Parkin, who's in Washington, D.C. for the IMF World Bank protests. He and about 300 other protesters are now trapped in Freedom Plaza. They've been encircled by several rows of policemen, and here's his report.
This is supposed to be a peaceful protest, protesting the potential war in Iraq. And right now we are surrounded probably by twice as many police as there are of us. For a while we've been chanting, we want to leave this park peacefully. We got medics all over the place. This is kind of a little bit of a tense situation.
Shortly afterwards, Scott was arrested and handcuffed, put on a metro bus.
They arrested everyone. I was in custody for like maybe 10 or 12 hours, probably over half of which I was handcuffed on a bus. And they just had like busloads of people arrested at that. What's kind of come out of that is that it's been ruled an illegal arrest by courts, by the City Council of Washington, D.C., and the chief of police sent an apology letter to people who were arrested. Often when you go and participate in protests now in Washington, D.C., the police are very hands-off.
Got me under pressure. It's got me under pressure.
In May of 2003, I was part of a Greenpeace action at the world headquarters of ExxonMobil in Dallas. The Dallas police, actually it was in Irving, Texas, which is a suburb of Dallas, sent in the SWAT team and were very violent in dealing with the protesters. One protester was beat up pretty bad and then charged with resisting arrest. And 36 of us were arrested. About a third, or maybe it was close to half of that number, were dressed as ExxonMobil tigers, and they wore big fluffy tiger suits. I'm talking about like tigers in a raft on the company lake and tigers on the roof. We were all charged with trespass, and then we were charged with riot, which they turned into a felony charge. Since then, all of our records have been expunged, so it doesn't even show that I was charged with a felony.
NBC News In Depth tonight. Is the Pentagon really spying on anti-war groups in the U.S.? Ever since 9/11, the Department of Defense has been authorized to expand its intelligence collection inside this country. Now, NBC News has obtained a secret Pentagon database that indicates the U.S. military is collecting information on American peace activists and monitoring protests against the Iraq War to a degree that is drawing some sharp criticism.
So when the war began, we started looking at looking for like the root causes of the war, and some of it was like, you know, the kind of corporate system in which we have here in the U.S., which like kind of drives and directs everything. And so in Houston, we decided to target Halliburton because they were the biggest contractor in Iraq.
Reuters. Halliburton and its KBR unit were investigated for overcharging the U.S. government and accused of performing substandard work in Iraq. The company has also been under fire for its ties to the Bush administration. Vice President Dick Cheney headed up the firm before he moved to the White House. So far, so-called no-bid contracts have helped KBR bill the U.S. for more than $20 billion for work in Iraq.
And so we decided that we would have a cooked food, not books, street theater protest outside of the Halliburton headquarters, making peanut butter and jelly sandwiches for Halliburton employees.
This is Chickpea sitting on the back porch of KPFT. Michael Isikoff in this Newsweek article basically says that you were surveilled by the top secret counterintelligence field activity program. He refers to your peanut butter protest and says it was basically considered a potential threat to national security. Now, Herb, you mentioned that you had some volunteers helping you that day you hadn't seen before?
Yeah, there were two guys there. I don't recall what they looked like really, but they were very helpful. I was hoping they'd be around more.
We turned on the lights. And we've been rehearsing for over 40,000 years.
So where the bloody hell are you?
The first thing I had to do was apply for a visa to Australia. It's not one of those countries where you can just show up and they let you in. And so I applied for the visa, and when I heard that there was a simple way in which you could do it, where you just do it online and you pay by credit card for the visa, and that's that. And so when I applied for it, they automatically rejected it. I had a phone call interview with a representative of the Australian government who basically only wanted to talk about like my arrest record and my activities as a political organizer. At that point I'd had 2 arrests in my life. Since then, a couple things have happened. I've gotten a copy of my FBI file where the American Federal Bureau of Investigation had actually been building they had a file on me of surveillance. Connected to that was I found out that I was on the Australian movement alert list, which was where the Australian authorities had been notified that I was planning to travel to their country. The movement alert list basically says that a foreign security agency, not saying which one it is, had like alerted them that I may be a dangerous, person.